I'm Eric Novak, and this is the Volkswagen ID.4 All-Wheel Drive Pro S. Let's go for a ride. As mentioned, this is the all-wheel drive, the dual motor version of the ID.4. Back in October, 6 months ago, I was able to do a full ID.4 review, and in that case, I was using a rear-wheel drive version. So there's a lot of similarities between the two, but there are some differences. In this video, I'm going to try highlight some of the differences, powertrain, charge times, range, things like that. You can certainly watch the video that I did 6 months ago, and I'll put the link up so you can access it. Obviously, the big difference between the all-wheel drive dual motor and the single rear-wheel drive version is power. This particular version here, it has the same battery. It is still the 82 kilowatt hour battery, but it has more horsepower overall. The rear-wheel drive had about 201 net horsepower. This has 295 and 339 pound-feet of torque. So you get more jump on this here. In fact, in terms of acceleration, I mean, this isn't going to be running up against the Taycan or anything like that, but this has a 0 to 100 kilometer an hour. The time-wise is just, I think it's about just under 6 seconds, 5.6. In fact, let's just cut away because I did get a chance to do a little acceleration test. So let's check it out. So they say that this all-wheel drive, ID.4, will hit 0 to 100 in about 5.6 seconds. I got a little stretch here of open, unoccupied road. So let's give it a test. I've got cameras front, cameras back. I don't have a clock in front of me, but I'll sort of do it later on in post. But let's see how it goes. We're going to go in 3, 2, 1, go. And I am at 100 now. So that was certainly a little bit faster than that. And boom. Wow. The braking. Now, if it's the same size battery, the trade-off, of course, if you want more power, is you're probably going to lose a little bit in range. And that is the case here. This all-wheel drive version of the ID.4 has a posted estimated range. And again, that's an estimate of 386 kilometers. That's basically 240 miles. That compares to the 400 kilometer range that was with the rear-wheel drive. So you're losing less than 10% or so, but you're certainly getting more power. It really is important to talk about range. I do it all the time because just remember, range is an estimate. It is not an absolute. Range can be up or down depending upon a host of factors. When you see a posted range, either from the U.S. Department of Transportation or in Canada, Natural Resources Canada, it is based upon a set, closed internal testing protocol. It is not done in real-life situations. So basically, it's nothing more than a guesstimate. It is a baseline, and just as you would see with internal combustion vehicles who have a posted combined fuel economy or a distance density, the amount of range you could go in a single tank, it is just an estimate. You know, in a gasoline car, you're going to have better fuel economy if you do a lot of highway driving. Well, in an electric vehicle, because of the regenerative braking capabilities, you're going to have better range if you do more stop and go. So it all depends, but there's your baseline and you work from there. Another difference, of course, with the dual motor is you're going to have a different efficiency rating. Now, there's lots of ways to measure efficiency. I still think, to me, instead of the miles per gallon E or the liters E per 100 kilometers, the easiest one to understand is what we would call kilowatt hours per. And in Canada, that's kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. In the US, it's kilowatt hours per 100 miles. That just, to me, is an easier way to understand. So how many kilowatt hours will it take on average to go a certain distance? You can compare it to the size of your battery, and you have a rough idea of how efficient you are against the others. With this ID.4 all-wheel drive, the dual motor version, in Canada, the posted rating is 22.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. For my American friends, just looking it up here again, that works out to 33 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. Because again, of course, a mile is longer than a kilometer. Now this of course does compare less efficiently compared to the rear wheel drive. I can post the comparative numbers here again just in front of me on the screen. But as for how it compares against its competition, we're looking at this ID.4 as for the most part seeing vehicles like the Mustang Mach-E, the Kia EV6, the Ioniq 5, the Tesla Model 3, soon to be the Nissan Ariya, the Toyota BZ4X, the Subaru Solara. These are the ones you're going to be competing against. I don't have the efficiency numbers of the Nissan, Toyota, or Subaru, but in terms of those who are out on the market right now, this ID.4 is not at the top. In fact, it's towards the bottom third. We are seeing certainly more efficient vehicles. Actually, the Hyundai Ioniq, the original one, and the Model 3 still maintain the title of being the most efficient EVs on the road today. And if you think about why that's important, I mean, if you can go further on a charge, well, then you either need a smaller battery to go the distance you need, thereby making it cheaper, or you can take that same battery, make it more efficient, and go much further on a single charge. So that gets even rid of that range anxiety even further. So that's the comparative, and it's important to see with these two, rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, you're going to get more power, less efficiency, and that's a choice between what matters more to you. So it is important to talk about charging, and I think we're getting a little more evolved. As we have more EVs on the road and more EV reviews, we're getting into some of the deeper information that we need to talk about in videos, and one of them is some of the details about fast charging. So this particular unit I'm driving is still technically a 2021 unit, and it has a 125 kilowatt hour maximum charging capacity for DC currents. In the 2022 model year, it's going to be jumping up to 135. They're going to actually increase the charging capacity. But in terms of numbers right now, the posted information from Volkswagen is that if you're using a 125 charger with this battery, it is estimated that you will go from 10%, you're going to go from 5%, I should say, to 80% in 38 minutes. So here's where it's been getting more and more interesting because, we've been doing a little more looking into this. Right now, this is the mid to end of April, and I've been doing a lot of reviews. My EV6 review, my Ioniq 5 review has been done in the wintertime. Obviously, one of the drawbacks of EVs is that in the wintertime, the range dissipates, and that is, of course, because electric vehicles and the batteries are so efficient. In fact, they're way more efficient in terms of converting energy from the battery to the powertrain than, say, gas. With all that thermal heat loss in a gas engine, it actually helps in the wintertime to take some of that residual heat loss and heat up the cabins. You can't do that, so you lose range. But you also diminish the amount of charging speeds that you get. This is where we have to get into some bigger talks now, because there may be this misconception out there that when you talk about charging speeds for fast charging, that the charging speed at which it enters into your system is going to be linear. Like it's just going to be, you plug it in, you're getting 125 and boom. That's not the case, not the case at all. In fact, on this ID.4, just a couple of days ago, it was actually on Earth Day, I went to an Electrify Canada fast charger, 150, just like Electrify America. And that has, of course, the ability to hit 150 kilowatts. But at no time did I ever get above 58 kilowatts in terms of speed going in. What's up with that? Well, I was curious, too, to see. Now, of course, it's a little bit colder. And one thing of note is if you look, and I haven't really looked at this too much lately, but when I was just looking at the charge times for this ID.4, there is this little proviso. It says that 5 to 80% in 38 minutes happens when the ambient temperature is 23 degrees Celsius. That would be in the 70s in Fahrenheit. So temperature of the battery, temperature ambient in the around the temperature outside is going to increase the speed as well. The other thing I discovered, and I had to reach out from the product specialist at Volkswagen Canada who told me this in a conversation. We all know that the peak fast charging stops to about 80%, because after that, whatever speed you're getting is going to ramp down. You don't want to have fast charging into a battery right up to 100%. That can damage the battery. What I did find out, though, and I did not know, is that 125 peak charging capacity is really only available from about 5 to 30% charge. After that, it begins to go down in terms of speed. It seems a little bit early, and this would obviously, I think, be similar in other manufacturers, although I don't know. For example, when I had the EV6, and of course the EV6 and the Ioniq 5 are able to take 800 volt chargers and up to 350 kilowatt chargers, but I never got above 130 when I was reviewing the EV6 about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So there's probably going to be similar lineage or sort of arcs in terms of the charge pattern with these vehicles as well. Why is this important? Well, I think it's something we have to bear in mind, and we have to know when our batteries are most likely to receive the quickest charge. A scenario I imagine is, let's just say you're on a long drive and you are going to drive beyond the typical range of your vehicle to where you're going to have to stop maybe once for a touch-up. Let's just say you've got a 600 kilometer drive and you've got a vehicle that can go 500. So at some point along the way, you're going to want to have to top up an extra 100 kilometers to get to your destination, and then when you're there, you charge up again to full. Well, if you're going to be charging and you wait till you get to, say, 50%, or you're a 50% full and you charge then just to top yourself up, well, the speed of your battery is not going to be charging as fast as it would as if you were maybe closer to empty. So in this respect, if you're trying to minimize the time you spend at a charging port, you might want to understand where the maximum speed is achieved in terms of your battery, and then figure it out on your drive. So, if it's in this case from 5 to 30%, well, I'm going to go as far as I can to get this battery depleted to where I get to a charging station, because then that extra 100 kilometers I know is only going to take a few minutes to charge up versus perhaps maybe 30, 40% longer if I did it when I was only half empty. Now, if you're just charging at home in a level 2, it's not going to be as relevant because the charging speed would relatively be the same throughout the process. You're not putting a high load into the battery. But it does bear in mind that you should consider this as you're going on a long trip. Where and when do I stop with respect to the level of charge I have in such a way that it gets me where I'm going while staying at a charging spot for the least amount of time? And I think what we're getting here with this ID.4 is a little bit of a more simplified but capable EV, and that also factors well into price. I mean, you really only have the one battery size, the all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive, and the pricing is really not that high. I think this is a more favorably priced compared to some of the others who have multiple trims, powertrains. I mean, you can get up to near $100,000 if you want to get into a Ford Mustang Mach-E GT Performance Edition. It's a rocket, but I mean, that's a big jump from where, say, this all-wheel drive ID.4 is. And that's going to be a differentiator in terms of this vehicle. It's pricing itself in such a way that what you're getting is a pretty effective, not as efficient, but relatively spacious, comfortable vehicle overall, at a more streamlined, simplified options and price. So I think, that is a differentiator here. It is unique, and it's something that is going to play in terms of, well, which one do you want? As soon as the American manufacturing comes, the North American inventory will jump right up. I think we'll see sales spike as well. But that is also one of the challenges in terms of getting one, because right now, if you want one, you can't really get one. So if you've made the decision you want an EV, well, there's lots of choices now for you in 2022. If you've decided that of those EVs you want the Volkswagen ID.4, well, even there you've got some choices. Whatever you do, make sure that you take the time to do your research and understand of the choices and options and powertrains and all sorts of other considerations, charging and such. What's the right one from you? An educated EV consumer is going to be the best one out there now, because we're going to get rid of some of those old misconceptions and move forward, because this is really where things are headed. If you enjoyed this video and you're not subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. If you are a subscriber now, thank you, but make sure you've hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload something new. That's it for now. I'm Novak. Thanks for watching.